Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg. This podcast has been created with you in mind to acquaint you with some of the most incredible metaphysicians and spiritual leaders from around the globe who have helped others change their lives. In this interactive hour, you will be offered insights and techniques to help you make a difference in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening platform. And here we go, on to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg, and we have another really amazing show coming down the pike today because we have back one of my dear friends, Allison Stillman. Allison is an evolutionary change-maker, author, speaker who is using ancient alchemy to transform people's lives around the world. She has been a student of aromatherapy, alchemy, and spirituality for just a short bit, 50 years or so, and has been deepening her connection to love her entire life. Her book, The Sacred Art of Anointing, was the first of its kind, and when it was published, and it continues to educate people about the ancient alchemical magic of anointing. I apologize for that. Allison's been featured in the New York Times bestsellers book, including Love for No Reason by Marcy Shimoff and More Hot Chocolate for the Mystical Soul by Ariel Ford, in addition to magazines, podcasts, global conferences, and radio shows around the world. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Marla. I'm so happy to be here with you always on any level. It's always a joy.
Oh, so happy to have you back. It's been a minute, so let's find out what you've been up to since you've last been on the show.
So, gosh, there's been a lot of change in my life, and I'm sure that's true with everybody that's listening in. I think we're in the time of evolutionary change for each and every one of us. And I always like to think of this time as being a time of re-evolution. And so we're being asked to come into this place of really evolving ourselves. And so you can't do that without radical change. So I've moved around quite a bit since we have last communicated, at least through this venue. And I've just recently returned from a 2-week trip swimming with wild dolphins. And so there's been a lot happening and changing in my life. And I'm just in this place of being emptied out in the moment and allowing for what is and what wants to be and what's coming and manifesting through me. So that's in a nutshell.
I love that. So you have a new, when I was announcing you, Evolutionary Change-Maker, a new title. What is an Evolutionary Change-Maker? Let's tell everybody what that is.
So I've always known that my mission on earth is to raise the frequency of love. And I have done that through so many different things. I've worked in the corporate world, been in health and wellness, as you said, for a very long time, studying aromatherapy for 50 years and done a lot of different things. Always had my hand in the world of consciousness and awakening consciousness. And through the anointing work that I've done and the coaching that I've done with that, I've found that anointing with essential oils is by far and away the most powerful way to awaken consciousness in people. And so I've kind of been a catalyst for bringing that back into the world and introducing it and teaching it and sharing it with my clients and students. And what I have found for me personally is that because I know behind all that is to raise my own frequency and be an emblem or a spokesperson for raising our frequency of love on the planet. I do that through my own practices and through my own evolution and through letting go of things that no longer serve me and being willing to change at all times and any time that it's being asked of me, and to be willing to look at whatever it is that I need to look at within myself, let go within myself, or culture and cultivate within myself. And so I know that in order to fulfill my mission, I have to become the biggest frequency of love on the planet. And so that's what I bring to others. I know that through this own personal journey that I've been on, I've created a pathway to help others to raise the frequency of love within themselves. And through that, we change and grow and evolve.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. And so I'm going to go back to the evolutionary change-maker. Does that also have to do with your environmental efforts?
Absolutely. I don't think anything that I do is separate from that, because I want to leave everything, including the homes that I live in or the people that I work with, in a better place than when I found them. And so, of course, my biggest home is Mother Earth. And so I do whatever I can through the different organizations that I work with to bring awareness, to educate people about what's happening with the earth, to take, I will say, to take educational battles to the Senate and the House, and to work on shutting down pipelines and passing certain bills to protect the earth. And I've always done that. That's just been something, because I love being in nature. Nature restores me, it nurtures me, it educates me, it just cradles me in such a sweet softness. And so I want to do whatever I can to make her better as well.
And she needs to get better. I mean, I have to say, the COVID, as bad as it was, and as many people as we've lost, Mother Nature started healing. And that is one of the biggest gifts that COVID has given us. I mean, because, I look at everything as a lesson, opportunity, or gift. And though there was a lot of negative stuff that happened with COVID, there is that beautiful gift that Mother Nature started healing itself. I'm sorry to say it's not staying that way, but it did have a little respite. And that year or 2 years that most people weren't traveling, and they weren't making that, what do they call it? The step, the footprint, that all plant life, animal life, water life, we're all able to heal and populate, and probably to have a nice reprieve from the stresses that humans put on the environment.
Absolutely. I think that's a great lesson for all of us, because one, we get to see that the earth can regenerate and can take care of herself and can provide a more beautiful, hospitable environment for us. And it's interesting, knowing as much as I do through working with Climate Reality Project, we don't have a very long time to turn it around. And so we do indeed have to take proactive steps. And I think we as a species are hardwired to not change. And so one of the things that I think are great about great catalysts like COVID, or like the climate catastrophes that we're seeing around the world, is that it brings people to their knees and it shakes them out of their complacency. And so that hardwiring natural instinct to not change, to not grow, to not get out of our comfort zone or our boxes, if you will, gets shaken when these things happen, and it forces us to change. And that's where the growth comes from. That's where the awakening comes from. That's where the consciousness comes from, is from getting out of that static place.
And yes, people don't want to change, even if they're living their most miserable life. It's like, oh no, I need to stay with the devil I know, because it's where their comfort is. But that's where also their frequency is.
That's correct.
They
Yeah.
live within that.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because we not only are hardwired with the neurons of our brain to stay the same, but we also have these deep subconscious programs and paradigms that we adopted when we were young. From 0 to 5, we borrow all the beliefs of how it is to be a human. And then events happen and we start building walls around it, and it stays buried in our subconscious, and we don't even know half the stuff's there. And then we operate from that subconscious belief or paradigm, and we wonder why we can't change, why things don't happen the way we want them to happen. It's because we are hardwired, one, in our brains, but also our subconscious is programmed to operate a certain way and believe a certain thing.
And I've just become a Gigi. And it's so funny because I was talking about this and about raising the child. And, I in conversation, I don't tell anybody what to do, but we had the conversation about how these little babies in utero can hear what's going on. And so they start getting their tape recorder programming, the negatives in situations and the energies that the mother is holding and the people who are around the mother. And when you give birth, how important it is to be uplifting and positive to the child. So that's what they receive, and not screaming and hollering and imprinting them with our stuff, allowing them.
Absolutely. Yes, and congratulations. That's such a beautiful gift to be able to have that in your life. And I know you're experiencing that. Yeah.
It's lovely. Since I never had a child of my own, I know it's like, how did I become a Gigi? But it's such a miracle. And just watching her, I could just sit and watch her all day long, because just watching how her expressions change, going, what's going on while you're dreaming? What are you dreaming about? Because obviously they can't talk. She's
Right.
only 5 months old. So it's like, oh my God. But the point is how we're programmed as individuals, and how that program tends to lead our life, unless we get some insight and decide this isn't what we want for ourselves and make the efforts to change.
Absolutely. And it's so crucial. You're such a good influence for this baby, because it's all the way up to 5 years old. They're influenced by the people around them and the beliefs of the people around them. And the little girl looks to the mom and to the grandmom and the women around and goes, oh, that's how you be a woman. Right. And then you look
Yeah,
to the masculine and go, oh, that's how you do the masculine and feminine. And you adopt that inside yourself, but then also in your relationship. And by the time you're 5 years old, you're cooked. You're done, right? Then you start learning about the intellect, and it start developing the intellect. And we don't spend any time on that subconscious or those belief systems. And
we
that's where
don't.
that's where it all happens.
It's so true. It is so true. And it does just lead our lives in the direction we end up going. But we have choices, right? I mean, we can choose to continue to go down this road, even though it's not serving us well,
Right.
or we can, go down a different path and make a different effort and see if that isn't better for us.
Right.
So
Yes.
it just works that way. Let's talk about anointing for a little bit, because many people, I mean, the alchemy, anointing, people in our realm absolutely understand. But if they're just starting on their path and they hear the word alchemy or anointing, and let's start with anointing, what exactly would that connotate for you to share with somebody just learning this vernacular?
So, anointing, the very definition of anointing is to take a blessed oil or water and to rub it on someone or something in an act of consecration. And when we consecrate someone or even ourselves or even our homes, we are making or declaring that someone or ourselves or something sacred and divine. And so a very simple anointing ritual that we do ourselves, where we take an oil, an essential oil, and maybe it's just a single oil like lavender, or maybe it's a blend, or for those that are just starting out, and you just take a couple drops and you can anoint your heart and hold your hand over your heart and anoint yourself with intention, and you're making and declaring yourself sacred and divine. So what a beautiful way to start your day, just to be able to do something like that, or to do for your loved one. Maybe it's a ritual between two beloveds where you're anointing somebody else's heart and just holding your hand over their
Mm.
heart and seeing them and consciously acknowledging them as sacred and divine. That's a beautiful, beautiful gift we can give to ourselves and to each other. The particular body of work that I do and what my book is about came through in meditation 35 years ago. And it's based on the ancient ceremonial rites that the priestesses used to do in the temples of Egypt thousands and thousands of years ago. And those ancient rites are very complex and would be used in times of initiation or baptism or coronation. Kings and queens would come to be anointed before they were crowned, or last rites. And many of the sacraments in the religions today are based upon those ancient rituals and ceremonies of anointing.
I think, yeah, I love that. And because I love the idea of anointing your heart. Do you have a saying or something that when you're doing that, when you're setting your attention and you're anointing, that you could share with the audience that maybe if they wanted to try it, they would say, oh, this is what I say to my heart?
So I'll give a very simple one that
Yeah.
I do in addition to the anointing, because I work with angels and archangels and have for many, many years. So I'll anoint myself and I call forth all of the angels, the masters, teachers, and guides that dwell in the highest realms to come forth and to surround me in love and light, so that nothing but love and light sticks to my field.
I love that. And it's also like putting a protection around yourself for the course of the day.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
you're calling on the beings on the other side of the veil to come and make sure that you're protected.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful way to have your heart receive some nourishment of sorts, and yet still put, call on your angels, guides, guardians. And you said it much better than I, but to protect you and to make your, move things out of the way so that you have a flow in your day.
Yes. And two things with that. One is that I've done a lot of work looking at how essential oils impact the electromagnetic energy around our bodies, or aura, or, electromagnetic field. And essential oils can actually reinforce the strength of that.
Oh.
So just using the oils will help to impact what comes in and affects you. But then also, every single person that comes to earth has a guardian angel. And they're just watching. This is a free will zone, and it's hands off unless they're asked to come and assist. So you could be going through your day and your angel could be going, oh my God, what's she doing? But unless you ask for help, they just have to stand by and watch.
That's it. And it's so funny because I don't know if you ever watch my announcements or my endings, but I always say, ask your beings on the other side of the veil for what it is you need or want or desire, because otherwise they have no ability to work, or I like to say, conspire on your behalf.
Absolutely. I agree
So
100%.
thank you for confirming that. I really appreciate that. Let's talk about alchemy, because I know alchemy is a type of magic of transformation. But what's your definition? How would you explain that to somebody who's new to this journey?
So alchemy really is just it's another word for transformation, and it was used in the ancient times to originally turning lead into gold, right? And so if you apply that to your own life, to your own personal journey, it's taking where you are right now and turning, maybe it's more of a mundane existence and you want something more, and it's turning it into a more magnificent version of yourself or the life that you're creating. And I believe that there are a lot of tools that can create very strong positive changes in our lives and help us manifest the things that we want to do. There's a lot of tools, but since we were just talking about anointing, essential oils are a really powerful way to transform. And I'll give an example. I did a 2-year stint working with women in recovery in a recovery home. And it was a study and also a volunteer effort working with these women. And I'll never forget the very first time I went in to teach about aromatherapy and how it could help them mitigate some of the symptoms of, coming off hard drugs, coming out of jail, etc. And I walked into this room of about 30 women, and they've had really hard lives, really hard lives.
Mhm.
And a lot of them were very hardened and had their arms crossed, with their hoods up, kind of like, what are you going to do for me? Right.
Yeah.
And I was there for 1 hour, and I let them smell 3 different oils. And by the end of that hour, I had women laughing. I had women crying. I had women hugging me and asking me when I could come back. And the simple act of inhaling 3 different oils impacted the emotional and behavioral centers of their brain and created change. To me, that's alchemy. That's magic.
That's
That's
powerful.
transformation, right?
Yeah. And it's something that so many people, they don't have to be coming off of drugs or out of jail, but that need to be softened, that need to learn to trust and allow
Yes,
for their
absolutely.
emotional best.
And one of the things that I love about aromatherapy is that because the sense of smell is the fastest way to impact the emotional and behavioral centers of the brain, just smelling a couple of oils or even a single oil can change how you feel, and it can change how you act and behave. So to me, I don't know anything that's faster or more powerful in affecting change in an individual or a group of people in such a short amount of time than aromatherapy, anointing, etc.
And that is definitely alchemy because you've transformed them, or you started to. And were the same women in there for the whole 2 years, or did you?
And no, they came and went.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
got out. So, some were coming out of abusive homes and things like that. So as they got resettled, got new homes or got off probation, etc., then they graduated out of the home. So
do you ever hear from any of them? Did any of them tell you about their progress?
I did hear from a couple of them. Yeah, there's a little bit of confidentiality and things
Of
when you go
course.
into the situation. So you're not really allowed to keep in touch with many of them. But yes, yeah,
Nice. Very nice. And
yeah.
yeah, I would never ever ask you to go out of integrity by sharing confidential things, but it would be nice to say your influence through the oils has helped them maybe change the way they're wired in their brain, in the way they think about things.
I can tell a lot of stories about that with clients. And then I did another study. It was a 1.5 year long study with Alzheimer's and dementia residents in a convalescent care center, which was supposedly going to be a 6-week study. But I fell in love with them all. And the caretakers kept begging me, please come back, don't stop coming, because the difference in the Alzheimer's and dementia symptoms for those residents diminished greatly using essential oils. I mean, dramatic difference.
That's amazing because from what I understand, there's something called sundowners where they get worse between like 4 and 7 or 4 and 6.
Yeah.
And so, did the oils also help them with their sundowner
Yes.
symptoms?
Yes. Yes.
That's
And it
that.
helped mitigate some of the confusion and fear and combativeness. And in addition to that, because all essential oils are antiviral and antibacterial, none of the residents nor the caretakers got sick that winter. Where in the independent living section of that residential community, they all got sick. And it's because I got them diffusers, and they were diffusing oils in the morning and at night to calm them, to elate them, to bring happiness and joy to their systems. And it also had the physiological impact of killing off bacteria and viruses in the environment. So it was a win-win all the way around.
I love that story. In the Sacred Art of Anointing, do you share ways for people to, like, which oils are best for this or that? Is it also like a dictionary sort of thing where it, or an encyclopedia where it gives them guidance as to what to use? A user's guide, I guess, is more like it.
It's more, it's a little bit more esoteric than that. There are a lot of books out there about here's lavender, Lavandula gustifolia, here's where it's grown, here's how it's grown, here's how many drops. There's a lot of books out there about that. I think those are more reference books. This is really more in depth on what essential oils work with musical notes, work with food types, colors for each energy center of the body to bring you into alignment and balance, and to activate all of the energy centers into a place where you can really fully move into consciousness, you can evolve, you can grow, you can change, you can transform through that art.
Nice. And you have a book that you're giving away for free to the listeners on the show, How to Transform Your Life. Let's talk about the book, the ebook itself, and then like what it is, how it helps, and then where they can find it, knowing that it will also be in the blog. Your website will also be in the blog so people can find you.
Great, thank you. So I wrote this book quite a few years ago, and it was in response to a technique that I learned. I studied with a fellow by the name of Shawn Achor, who is well known for his research in the field of happiness. And I did a workshop with him, and he's a neuroscientist and was teaching at Harvard at the time, and he's gone on to write quite a few books. And one of the things that he talked about to change the neural networks of our brain is gratitude. And so what we were saying earlier is that the neurons of our brain are hardwired for negativity. And what I mean by that is, since the caveman days, we have had to look for survival and develop our survival instincts. So if we left the cave, we had to know if there was a warring tribe coming after us, or there was a thunderstorm, or there was a saber-toothed tiger that was going to get us. And we're still operating from that premise. And so we always look for the negative things in order to survive. And when you start practicing gratitude, that's a way to change the neurons from negative to look to the positive first, to go to the positive first. And if you develop a practice around that, then you're changing the neurons to look for the positive and the good, and to be grateful as a first activity, rather than always waking up and going, oh my gosh, it's raining out, oh my gosh, that kind of thing. It's like,
Yep.
wow, I wake up and I'm so grateful I get to wake up, right? Just simple like that. And so we're actually changing the physiology of our brains through this practice, and through working with him, as well as Bob Proctor, the late great Bob Proctor. Gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. And so that's what this book is about. I wanted to share what I had learned from both of these mentors in my life, because it changed my life dramatically. So I want to share everything that I've learned along the way to help people change their lives and live more fulfilling lives, and raise the frequency of love inside themselves.
I'll say, you speak what I speak, and I love it, because we need more of it. We definitely need people to change the way that they're thinking, because right now there is so much. I don't know if this is like the first time since like the 40s, late 30s, 40s, that we've had so much horrific negativity, interpersonal, but also politically, what's going on, and the way people are thinking and what they're justifying is just so dramatic.
I think, it's what we were saying a little bit earlier, that always these kinds of events create a wellspring of change inside of us. We'll get to the point where we can't take it anymore, and we will take action to change it, and that happens on an individual level. But I think right now it's also happening on a collective level, that when enough of us say, no, this does not work anymore, and we take action to make change, we can create positive outcomes. And I think it sometimes, I've watched in the climate crisis where, let's say, for example, there was a tornado here right after I had moved to Nashville, and it devastated an entire community. And when people lose things like that, the community gathers together and they donate and they offer their homes up and they donate money and they donate clothes and household items and help them rebuild. That's who we really are, right? When we go into our hearts, into a place of love and caring and compassion, that's who we as a species are and can be. And I think great change comes from great catalysts.
That's a perfect way of saying it. I agree. I want to also address, you're doing conscious alchemy coaching for clients. So let's talk about what that is.
So this is kind of a fun story, actually. So I've been doing the anointing in-person sessions for 35 years, where people come and they spend almost an entire day with me, and we get to the root of what's really going on and what their subconscious programming is. And then I do a lot of hands-on Reiki, sound therapy, anointing of the body to get it out of the body. And I started studying with Bob Proctor many, many years ago, and I think he was one of the greatest transformational leaders on the planet, and by far and away was the world's leading expert on the quantum science of manifestation. And it was the first or second workshop that I was doing with him and his techniques. And I was, oh my gosh, this is so powerful. It's so amazing. If he only combined essential oils with this work, oh my gosh, you could change the mind, the brain, the behavior, and you could change the subconscious, and it would be a whole package, right? The next workshop I went to, I have got to tell them about the aromatherapy piece. It would be so amazing, be such a complete system, and people could get results so quickly. And of course, I got a photo with him, but not a chance to actually tell him this. And so I think it was probably the fourth workshop I did with him. Again, I was like, oh my gosh, he has to know about this. And Spirit said, he's not supposed to do it. You are. And I was like, oh. And that's how conscious alchemy coaching sessions came into existence. It's taking the work that I do with the anointing, and it's also combining the work that I learned from him, and I brought it all online. And so now I see clients, because I have a lot of clients that are international and they can't always get to me for a session. So I brought it online and we incorporated the different techniques. And so it's generally one session, right? Which, it's obviously not about the revenue for me. But I've gotten really skilled at taking people down to core issues. It's like, oh, well, let's talk about this. Oh, well, what happened then? And we can get to the core issue, and then we can apply the different techniques to change those programs and reestablish new programs. And then with the work with the aromatherapy piece, because I always create a custom blend for my clients and send it off wherever they are, then you can work on the neurons of the brain, the emotional and behavioral centers, but also the long-term memory center. You can establish new long-term memory as a result of combining those two things. So that's kind of what it is.
I love that. I think a lot of people can use the long-term memory thing because they forget. So you keep repeating the same things over and over again because they forget.
Yeah.
So, okay. So there's a question here about, to protect and empower ourselves in turbulent times. What do you suggest people do for that?
So what I had shared earlier about doing an invocation to call in your guardian angel, I have a much more elaborate one that I do that involves ascended masters and archangels. It takes me about 15 minutes to do that, and I don't get out of bed in the morning until I do that. Then I also anoint my body with a lot of different oils because I want that electromagnetic shield to be as strong as possible. I also meditate every day, and I chant every day, and I spend as much time in nature as I possibly can, and I do my gratitude practice as well. I have a lot of practices that I do because I'm sensitive and I'm an empath and I feel the state of the world. And again, I have to keep my frequency as high as possible, because if I want to change the frequency of love on the planet, it starts with me. And so I always do an assessment of where I'm at. And sometimes, it's a little crazy out there, and I'll lose it. And by the end of the day, it's like, okay, let's just go into the meditation room. Let's just put some more oils on. Let's put some really calming and soothing music. Maybe it's sitting out in the backyard with my cat, Those kinds of things are what I need to do to nourish myself in order to be able to give the way that I give in the world. And I think the more practices we can do right now that help sustain us and elevate us, I think it's the most important thing that we can do, because we can't give from an empty vessel. We have to fill ourselves up with the love and the joy and the happiness and peace in the many different ways that we find it. And everybody's different about what that looks like. But I have a pretty big practice just to keep myself sane.
You do. It almost sounds like your day doesn't start till 11 a.m.
Sometimes it doesn't.
because I know what my prayer practice, how much time that takes, because I segment everything. So it's like gratitude, then this, then this, then this. So, I'll just say it takes 2.5 miles for me to say my prayers. So
Yes.
that's a long time.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought that up. I also have been studying with Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I think is a brilliant leader for our time.
Yes.
And I have done a lot of his advanced week-longs, and another life-changing mentor for me who's really changed my life. And he taught me about walking meditations. And so I do that a lot when I walk around the lake. I do these walking meditations so that I walk in the frequency that I want to be in. And so I think that's a really powerful practice for us all too. And the other thing that I want to just share too, that I think is such actually there's two things. One is that in order to really evolve and change and grow, and we're talking about evolutionary change-maker, right?
Yep.
If you really want to evolve yourself and change from where you are and create a better life, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because change is not comfortable.
No, it's
Nobody
not.
likes it. And right now we're in a pressure cooker and we're all wanting to go, no, I don't want this. No. But you got to get comfortable with it, and you got to be okay being in the void, because right now we're in the process of the breakdown, or
Yes.
giving birth, the gestation phase. And it's not comfortable for anybody right now. And I'm in the place of saying it's okay to not know right now. It's okay. And that's not an easy thing to do for anyone.
No.
So I wanted to just share that. And then there's another, this came, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. And I'm sure everyone knows the old acronym for fear. It's false evidence appearing real, right?
Yes.
Well, the new one is face everything and rise. So look at what's going on. Check it all out. You can read the headlines, whatever.
Mm.
Don't get too immersed in news, and look at it and then rise above it, right? Become a higher frequency rather than that low baseline frequency of division and, all the crazy stuff that's going on. Don't hang out there. Rise above it.
It reminds me, and I hate to get political, but on January 6th, the people who resonated at that low vibration, they all seemed to, well, not all, but a lot of them seemed to descend on Washington, D.C. and cause all those issues and those problems. And the ones who, like you said, the frequency was higher, just stayed away from it and didn't buy into what was going on. And it's the difference in how people take things in and where they, where their vibes are
Right.
and what they do with them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a pause for a second because it's charity shout out time. And your charity is the Natural Resources Defense Council, or nrdc.org. So let's talk about that and why that's so near and dear to you. I know we talked a little bit about it earlier because it's your belief.
So I have been an advocate for the environment since I was 18 years old, and came across was time of a lot of gill netting along the Northern California coast, and there was an incredible amount of bycatch, they call it, and there was a baby dolphin that had just been born that was still had the folds from being in its womb. It was alive. I found on the beach, and I called Marine Mammal Rescue, and this is after counting seals and birds and all kinds, hundreds and hundreds of them on the beach. And I called Marine Mammal Rescue. We were able to save the baby. And then I got the news out there, and I said, you got to watch what's happening. And then I went to Sacramento and I lobbied to get a gill net ban passed. And it started me on this whole advocacy journey. And I started doing it as an individual. And then I had the good fortune to meet the president of the Sierra Club and got involved with Sierra Club. And then NRDC came on the horizon back in 1970. And they're, in my opinion, the most powerful legal environmental organization in the world today. And they have the top law firms on their board of directors, as well as all kinds of celebrities. They have 4.5 million grassroots activists that are part of the organization. But they have such legal might that they can go up against the Navy and win. They can go up against billion-dollar copper mining consortiums who want to destroy the last remaining headwaters, right, in Alaska for wild Alaskan salmon, and they win, right? So I just have discovered that if you want to go up against big moneyed organizations, you need serious legal might. And so that's where I started putting my financial resources and my activism is into that organization, as well as a few others, but they're my primary organization to really, really make change happen.
I love that. What a sad but great story, because I had a happy ending with the dolphin and wanting to protect and help the waterfowl, the wildlife, all that, in our environment in total.
Yes. Yeah.
It makes a huge difference.
I know the earth is going to be fine. She'll regenerate. I'm not so sure about our species, the human species. And so I think it's time for us to really start caring for the earth, because she's what keeps us all alive, right? And our food and water, if we don't have that, we're not going to survive. And so we all need to change our ways, and I do what I can as well. And we all need to make the difference individually and then collectively, so that we can continue to survive on this planet.
It makes, yes. And, it brings me, so I live also on the water. And so there was a duck who had, her foot is black. She can't put her weight on it. And her arm is yellow. I mean, they're still orange. And I called the waterfowl rescue. I cannot get anybody out here to help her.
Oh.
And, and it's like, I'll go and sneak down because they don't want you feeding the waterfowl, but I'll go down to the other condo and feed them there. And it just breaks my heart to see her, with that. And then one of my neighbors had a, statement like, oh, it'll fall off. It'll, nature will just take its course and do that. But I'm like, but she's in pain. She can't put any weight on it. And it's just a whole different way of thinking.
So I had an experience very similar with a bunny in my backyard. The fellow who cuts my yard was weed eating around the edges and clipped the back of the head of a baby bunny that was about the size of my hand. And I could tell it hit some nerves because it couldn't hold its head up. And so I, held it to me, brought it inside, wrapped it in a towel, put it in a box, and was just, it was banging against the box. I started singing to it and it quieted down. And then I started calling all the rescues. Well, they're all full and nobody would take the bunnies. So then I started calling veterinary hospitals to find a compassionate veterinary hospital because they said, oh, the bunny's not going to make it, and if it's still alive in the morning, then find a vet who could euthanize it. Like, I'm not going to let it suffer all night long, So I finally found an emergency vet and they said, yeah, bring it in. It's, the nerve damage, it won't recover. Bunnies don't recover from that. So I took the bunny in and they took it immediately, even though there was a room full of people in there. And when I went to go pay, they said, no, this is for the bunny. And they took the bunny.
This is bringing tears to my eyes. I'm just, my heart is just, I'm so empathic about and empathetic about these situations, and it just hurts my heart.
Yeah.
But thank goodness for people like that veterinary and hospital that said, bring her in, bring the bunny in.
There might be someone like that for the duck.
Yeah, well, I should probably go, do more.
But
there's only 24 hours in a day.
Right. But it's possible that there's someone out there that can help.
It would be. I know that where I live, there's a private bird sanctuary nearby. I just don't know where it is.
Yeah.
But that's another topic. Let's keep talking about you. So if you're interested in helping the NRDC, please reach out to the nrdc.org. See how you can help. Funds, donating money is always helpful, but there might be other ways if you don't have an abundance of money at this point because we're going through a challenging financial time. See how you can help.
Yeah,
there's other ways.
A lot of campaigns of just sending emails and things like that. So if you get on their email list, they send out a lot of information about petitions and things like that individuals can do without having to donate money to.
Perfect. So Allison, we have a little bit of time left, like 7 or 8 minutes. What would you like to talk about that I have not brought up for you to discuss that you want to share? It could be anything.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this a lot, but I really want to just share that because I think everyone I know in my circle anyway is going through this really dramatic evolution. And I really say that because the last 6 months have not been easy on me in my life. I have gone through a lot of physical challenges, a lot of spiritual challenges, and I know it's part of a greater collective challenge that we're all going through right now. And so I really want to encourage people to reach out to the people that they love, to strengthen those relationships, and to know that we're all doing this together. I have a beautiful life. I'm really grateful. I get to do amazing things, and I'm grateful for all of that. And yet I'm still being impacted by what we're all going through right now in this next evolution. We're leaving an era or an epoch, and we are leaving at age. If you look at it from an astrological point of view, we're leaving the age of Pisces and moving into the age of Aquarius. So we're moving from the dark ages and we're moving into a more visionary time in the world and a time of humanitarianism. We're not there yet. We're moving. And so that causes great turbulence, right? We're moving from, in the Hindu tradition, from a Kali Yuga, which is an age of destruction, 26,000 year cycle, into a Satya Yuga, which is a golden age, the age of enlightenment. And so the practices that I share are all about awakening, right? Becoming aware and conscious of the truth of who we really are as these divine spiritual beings having a human experience. And what I see for the future of the species is a golden age. I don't know if it's going to happen on this planet or not, or when it's going to happen, but I see that. And so I focus on that, of where we're going, not what we're going through right now, because it's a painful time for everyone. And so if that could be just a spark of light on the horizon for you and for all your listeners, focus on that. Let's put our attention on that, because that's what we'll create. As we know, what we focus on grows, right?
Right. So let's focus on the positive shifts and put away the negative. And well, it's just like when you meditate, right? You raise the frequency, and one person meditating raises the vibration of what, 72 people,
Right.
something like that. So anything you do individually, because many people feel, in my opinion, that they think that the world is too vast and that they're like a little grain of sand on all the beaches, which is pretty minute. But really, we are much more powerful than that. Might seem small in stature, but we are very powerful in our abilities energetically and what we can do to help lift our feelings, our emotions, lift our energy and our vibration, our frequency. Makes a huge difference. We can all collaborate in that.
And we're all in this together. And so knowing that, keeping that foremost in your mind, it's great consolation, especially after the last 2 years when we're all so isolated, but we're still all connected. I love what quantum physics has discovered, that what Stephen Hawking called the living mind of God is this electromagnetic field that exists everywhere in everything. And it keeps us all connected. And knowing that we're all doing this together, we're giving birth to this new era together, there's great consolation in that.
There is. And you might need, I'm just going to put this out there to the listeners, but I know I need to sit in hearing the consolation and all the stuff we're going through. But when you sit in it again, you can find that there's an opportunity, gift, lesson, or a combination of in anything you're doing. So if you look for the positive side, because we have choice, power of choice. You can go negative. You can sit there and get sucked into that negative, cesspool, but you don't have to. You do have the free will and the ability to turn it around and to be more positive so that you can bring more positive experiences into your world.
And that the ebook that I have on my website, when people sign up, they'll get that access to that. That is one simple little thing that you can do every single day that'll change how your brain is hardwired and let you look for the positive first, as opposed to looking for the negative first.
Exactly. Let's go against what we're comfortable in and do things that we will become comfortable in. Because here's the thing, you could sit in the discomfort, but if you are active in the discomfort, and I'm talking about actively changing it to the positive, all of a sudden that discomfort you're sitting in will feel like you're sitting on a cushion of feathers and whatever else could be, cotton candy, whatever else could be soft under your butt.
Right. Right. I had a business coach quite a few years ago, and he said something that I so rebelled against when I first heard it. And he said, in life, you're either growing or you're declining. And I'm like, well, that's not true. I'm sitting really pretty right now, and that's fine. And he said, you go outside and you look at a plant, it's never static. So you're either growing and evolving, or you're declining, which means that you're just heading out the door on your way to death, right? So when I really took that in and really realized the truth of that, I said, I want to keep growing. I don't care how uncomfortable it is, because I don't want to just sit back and wait to die. I mean, that made no sense to me, right? So
right. That's not what we're here for.
A constant process of evolution, growth, and change. And it's not easy, But the alternative to me is like, well,
It's
one
even
waste
worse.
of time. Yeah, why even come to Earth if you're going to do that?
Right. Why have this experience? Because we're all brought here for an experience that's personal to us, but that's also collective because we've reincarnated in a place. We've chosen to reincarnate now to go through what we're going through. Let's make the best of it.
Yes, absolutely.
And complaining never helps, does it?
No, it really doesn't. It doesn't do anything to change the circumstance.
So, Allison, if you could leave giving one tip for people to start shifting, or a saying or a quote, what might it be?
I think this was a teaching that I learned from my guru many, many years ago, and that is to just be love.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And the other thing I'd put on top of that, be love and be kind, because kindness is love. I think they're interchangeable. When you do that, and you can nobody. I have the belief that no one could be too nice, too kind.
I so agree with you.
So, Allison, as always, I am just so grateful that we were able to spend this time together sharing, you know, not all the things, because I think the show isn't long enough for that, but so many of the dimensions of what you do to help your clients and what you bring to the world and help Mother Nature and this beautiful planet of ours. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation. I love and adore you, Marla. It's always,
Oh,
always an incredible experience and conversation being with you.
I feel the same. So thank you so much. And can't wait till our next talk together. I want to thank Bridget for all she does. My right hand, my left hand, just my technical guru. I am so grateful for you each and every day. I'm grateful for you, the listeners, for taking time out of your life, out of your day to be a part of the show, to uh, be a part of the show, to glean some information from these amazing people like Allison that I bring on, because there's so many wonderful things that they can share with you to help you support your life, your trajectory. So thank you. And I just want to say a couple of things. If you're going to be in the Boston area next Friday on the 29th, well, it's a week from Friday on the 29th, I'll be speaking at Harvard. And if you're interested in being in the audience, please go to my website, MarlaGoldberg with 2Rs.com. Also go to that website if there's something I can do to be of service for you. Also, I've changed my day at the Bag Lady, so I will be back at the Bag Lady in Charlotte on Tuesday from 1 to 5, and that's at 1516 East 4th Street in downtown Charlotte. If you're in the hood, just stop by, say hello, arrange an appointment. Would love to see you, talk to you, answer any questions that you have. And as I leave you, I'm going to leave you by saying, as always, by sending you, as always, love, blessings, and gratitude. Know how grateful I am that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it, because not only am I your teacher, I am your student. And not only are you my student, you are my teacher. So that's anybody who you meet up with in life. We play both roles for each other. So I'm grateful for that. And if you haven't heard these words today, let me say them to you. I love you. And if you have heard them, you've heard it again. I love you, and know that if you need anything, this was taken in this conversation today. If you need some support, some help, some guidance, ask out loud, ask your beings on the other side of the veil, because they are just, chomping at the bit to help you, and they can't help you if you don't ask, because they don't have that kind of free will. Not the kind of free will that we tend to have in this human form. So ask for what you need so that you can receive what you want. Okay, till next week. Take care. Love you. Stay well.